While we're in the greenhouses, we're going to see white lines on the ground like this yellow line right here. That is what separates us from the plants. Every plant that's out there has the potential to be somebody or something's food. Therefore, plants on one side, humans on the other. Sound good? Perfect. No touching. And then last but not least, photography. Walt Disney World has very strict no backstage photography rules. However, with the boat going through the majority of where we're going through, that does not apply to this tour. So feel free to pictures, videos of any and everything that you want. You are more than welcome to. Sound good? Alright, we'll do some introductions where it's going to be a little quieter. We're going to make a U-turn around this storm here. And right now, to see some fun. I'm going to let go of a U-turn.
Thank you very much.
All right, now the second toughest turn that you're going to have to make. The other one is kind of short.
Thank you.
Of course. Alrighty, so welcome my friends to the Integrated Pest Management Research Laboratory, which is just a really fancy way of saying where the bugs are. And we'll talk about the bugs in just a minute. But first I would like to do some introductions. My name is Shannon. I grew up in the DC area, but I've been here at Walt Disney World for almost 23 years. Spent most of that time at all the things that you came to see today and what you want to see. So real quick, we'll just go around the room, say your name, where you're from, and what you're looking forward to seeing today. And if it's everything, this is my favorite ride of all time, great. And if it's, I don't know why I'm here, they made me come, that's cool too. So, yeah, there we go. We'll start with you guys over here.
Tony from New Jersey. Just had to grow fruit upside down.
Grow fruit upside down.
Yes.
Okay, it's called a topsy-turvy. No. Perfect. Anything to add? No? Okay.
My name is Taylor from West Virginia, and pretty much already said this is my favorite ride ever.
Yay! Backside of plate. Oh, yes. Here we go.
My name's Aaron. I'm curious to see how you feel.
Drawing techniques. Awesome.
My name is Taylor, and I really want to go for her birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday.
I'm Cindy. We are from Belgium, and we are here for her. She is studying biological science.
Oh, very cool. Welcome. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. I'm not the most scientific. I like things simple. But you just like plants. Cool.
I also like plants and vegetables.
Yay!
Jason from New Jersey, and you want to hear more about the aquaculture.
Aquaculture. Awesome.
I'm Joe from down the street. I'm looking forward to seeing Stanley.
Stanley. When I talk about my favorite band, it is Stanley.
Justin from Pittsburgh. I like the aquaponics.
Aquaponics?
Lisa from Pittsburgh, looking for tips on how to stop my wildlife from eating my plants so I can grow things outdoors.
So some natural pest repellents there. Lots of
like
different
deer and
herbs
chickens.
and things.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure you can help me, but
Yeah.
I don't think you have wildlife.
We used to have a three-legged deer that used to hop our 4-foot fence. You just can't deter those
You
guys.
know, my seeds.
That means you've got good plants though, if they're coming and stealing them. So. All right, well we can definitely accomplish all these things and more. What we are in right now, like I said, is all about the bugs. We're going to watch a quick video that's going to explain the relationship that they have with each other and how we use them maybe out into the greenhouses. Now hopefully you've all heard the term beneficial insect before. Not all bugs are bad. Some do things that help us as humans out. The one that comes to mind most frequently is the ladybug or the ladybug ladybird beetle. They are great at eating aphids, so we do use them all over property as natural pest control. But what you see up on the screen is the leaf miner fly. And that's what's in all of the top enclosures. If you think about the structure of a leaf, you can think about it like a sandwich. So you've got the two outer layers with all of the good stuff in the middle. So the fly is going to come along, deposit her egg sac or her larva through those outer layers right into the good stuff in the middle. Along with that, some goo comes out and a sweet substance called honeydew. She'll lap that up for some energy and be on her way. This is what the fly larva looks like inside the leaf. The black thing on the right is its mouthpiece. It works like a pickaxe, just going along, chipping away at all of the healthy tissue that you see there. And hopefully, most of you are aware, unfortunately, bugs normally don't travel alone. So when you see one, there are multiple friends behind it. So this is a time-lapse photo over about 8 days of all of the damage and decimation that multiple fly larvae can do to a poor lima bean. So all these plants that we see in this room are lima bean plants. The cute little Mickey heads with the dates on them are the dates. Plants that we see in this room are lima bean plants. The cute little Mickey heads with the dates on them are the dates that they were originally infested by. Will never have the chance to emerge, and instead, what will emerge is a beneficial parasitoid wasp. This is what the wasp larva looks like emerging out of the leaf. Kind of a rough drop down to the ground in this video, so it's happening a little more gently over here. Into the funnels, into the cups. Some honey is smeared on the lid of the cup. And those wasp larvae are going to stay in those cups until they're ready to emerge as a full-grown wasp. And then they will go out into the greenhouses to combat the other bad bugs or pests that are out there. So I'm going to go ahead and pass around a container of those full-grown wasps. If you'd like to take a look and pass it on down. While you guys are passing those around, I'm also going to pass around something called a whispering thing. That is just going to help you hear me better when we are out there in the greenhouses. So you're going to put the big blue part around the back of your neck, the big black part around the back of your ear, and then once we are all on, if we're on panel 4, hopefully that's a beneficial insect, you will hear me buzzing in your ear. So of course the parasitoid wasps can't do it in your ear. So of course the parasitoid wasps can't do it all on your own, so there are off of our plants. So I'll give you guys a couple different ear options.
Thank you.
Perfect. We also do have 4 distinct greenhouses out there. We're not going to be mixing the tools on top, so just flip the black switch to make sure everyone has that orange light on. Up and down goes right there. Perfect. So I'm going to see who's getting off of the ride. But for now, we will head on out to our next lab. We will be experiencing the ride backwards today from what you are used to experiencing. So at this point, you can go ahead and follow those yellow arrows now on up past. There are different varieties of fruiting trees. Hopefully we can be able to increase the harvest or yield on said trees. And also decrease the size. You guys can keep on going. This lab also doubles as our biotechnology and tissue culture lab. So if you take a step down that step on your right, or go all the way around, perfect, you can look right into the biotechnology lab. The video that's playing overhead is the process for creating our Mickey's mini gardens. So plants are pretty cool and resilient. Of course, you can germinate them from a seed, but that takes a little bit of time to happen. You want to go all the way around. If you've ever done clippings in your own backyard, you know just a part of a plant will eventually regenerate a whole new entire plant. So in here, we're doing it in a sterile environment. Those little containers are basically like test tubes with an algae-based superfood that's in there. And then this is the only place along the tour we're going to see any artificial grow lights. So red light stimulates root growth, blue light stimulates shoot growth. So the combined purple is going to give these guys the best chance at survival that they have there. So they all come with instructions for transplanting. They stay in those containers until they outgrow the containers or eat all the food, and then it's time to transplant them at home. So you can take a piece of Walt Disney World home with you. So this lab is an L-shaped lab, and what you see from the boat ride are those shaker tables in the front. It takes about 4 hours to mix that algae-based agar and sugars together until it solidifies like a Jello jiggler or Knox block that's in there.
Any specific questions about tissue cultures, GMOs, splicing, grafting? All right then, let's head on into the greenhouses. As we're walking along, you're going to see these red signs like this. These are our identifiers, letting us know what kind of plant we're looking at. Below that, more specifically, you might see an exact variety of plant, or even a date seeded, so you can tell how old any given plant is. All right, my friends, prepare to be blown away by an air curtain, another form of pest control. And you guys can head diagonally towards those purple flowers there on the other side of the chives column. For the cinnamon, it's going to be coming from that inner layer of bark that you see there. No smell externally, so no idea how anyone ever found cinnamon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're just gonna let me know that the audio is okay every so often, okay?
Alrighty, friends, so here we are in Creative. This greenhouse is called Creative because it has the biggest variety of growing techniques of all of the greenhouses that we have here. But everything that's grown at the land is grown hydroponically, so focusing on water and from the roots up, and not just any water, but our own nutrient-enriched solution that you see. Basically, a superfood for the plants that's going to make everything grow about 25% larger and faster than it would grow with untreated water. And we'll learn about that nutrient solution in the next greenhouse. But all plants require 5 basic things to survive, and for that, you can think of the acronym of LAWNS. So you've got light, air, water, nutrients, and support. For most plants, support comes in the form of the dirt that it's growing in. We use very little to no dirt here in the greenhouses. So for our squash, the support is coming from the metal beams that it's hanging from. So it's a combination of aeroponics and hydroponics. That misting solution is constantly going through the tracks as it goes around and dousing those roots so they're completely saturated as it goes. A little chance to dry off before it does the whole thing again. Over on the far side is our verticrop system, great for inner cities or small spaces where everything can all get stacked on top of each other. And then you can see there's little funnels that are recollecting and reusing the water in there. In our vertical columns, that nutrient solution comes right down the middle into the drain field. And then across the way is integrated aquaculture. So our first look at some of the fish techniques. You can see the plants are growing in the top, letting carbon dioxide off into the air. The roots in the water are helping to clean the water. And then as the little tilapia are living their best fish lives, they're letting nitrates and nitrites off into the water, which then gets refiltered and goes back to feed the flowers, normally lettuce, again over there in aquaponics. Lastly, behind you is the VertiGrow system. That was designed by a strawberry farmer here in the state of Florida. By using that expanded polystyrene, you're saving it from a landfill, and putting those 36 plants vertically in that column saves a ton of space versus if they were planted in the ground. Also much faster to harvest them out of those than having to look on the ground through the plants. That was a lot of information in a little time. We all still good? All right, so I fibbed to you guys. I told you every plant in here was edible and no plant was touchable. We have one exception to that rule. This is Stanley. Stanley is our greenhouse pet. So I want everyone who would like to have an opportunity, come on over and say hello to Stanley. Stanley is what's called a sensitive plant or a shy plant. He will react to your touch. They also have about 20 different nicknames that they go by. Tickle-me-nuts, laughing grass, all sorts of things. Basically, he's just a tropical weed. The scientific name is Mimosa pudica, and what is happening is a natural reaction. As he feels that human touch, he wants to try and hide. So he's going to withdraw all of the water in his cells to be as small and tiny as possible, and then once he feels like there's no longer a threat, he'll re-expand all that water back out and be all big and full like we see him right now. Where they occur naturally, they do grow very prolifically. So these little purple flowers that we see right here are how they spread and grow, kind of like dandelions as they're going by. Oh, did you not like that? I'm so sorry. So sorry. So I want everyone to have the opportunity to interact with Stanley that wants to, and then we'll go for big dramatic effects. Everyone's saying so far back. This one is not edible. That's what I'm saying. He's the one plant that's not edible and that we do get to touch. He's just a weed, and if you get down to the middle, there's lots of thorns in there, actually. He has cut me before. Was that everyone who wanted to touch? So, the only state that they are native to should be Hawaii. They are an invasive species, so not commonly sold, or else if we could sell them in Mickey's Mini Gardens, we'd make a killing. Alrighty, everyone say night-night, Stanley. Oh my gosh. Again, 5 minutes, he'll be fine. You'll never even know we were here, I promise. So we'll make our way on down, passing some more edible flowers and herbs as we come into the kitchen. So here on the kitchen and the counter, we have a hydroponic grow tank. So we've just repurposed an old fish tank, thrown an air stone in there for a little bit of circulation, and this can be a great way to grow an herb garden. It's Swiss chard that's growing on there right now, but most things grown in there can be harvested about every 2 to 3 weeks. For you, those of you that were into integrated aquaculture as well, you could get a low maintenance fish, like a betta fish or a goldfish in there, and that would provide some extra nutrients as well. Now you seem to be very excited about the Mickey. Are you a fan of hidden Mickeys? Or not so hidden Mickeys? All right. This is one that many people don't see. Most of our hidden Mickeys are pretty obvious throughout the greenhouses, but if you look back to where that boat is passing at the very top right of the water, in integrated aquaculture, that PVC pipe, all the way on the top right, there's a hidden Mickey in there. But now is many people's favorite part of the behind the scenes tour, seeds tour, time for a little taste test. So even if cucumbers are not your favorite snack, I would still highly recommend at least trying one of these. This is a variety of English, variety of English cucumber known as a Davida cucumber. They are thin-skinned, seedless, and burpless. Now I do say burpless because cucumbers are pretty much just crunchy water. So if you were to eat too many of them, they may cause you to get a little gassy or get a stomach ache. So, there we go. Also up here on the counter, you can see the other alternate mediums that we do use instead. Are you good? The other alternate mediums that we do use instead of dirt. So the brown one is coconut coir. It is ground up coconut shells, husks, and pieces. With the coconut no longer being alive, it's not going to be stealing any of the nutrients from any of the plants that are in there. The rock wool is probably what we use the most of. It is volcanic ash, and it goes through a machine similar to a cotton candy spinner, where it's going to get all big and airy. And that is what most of our plants are seeded in here in the greenhouses. The white one, oh no! The white one is perlite. If you've ever used a pumice stone on your feet before, it is the same type of rock that is used in pumice stone. It just goes through something similar to a popcorn popper to get all nice and big. Did you want hers if she's not going to take it? All right, anyone just love their cucumber? No, it's okay, fine, whatever. Otherwise, I have to compost it. One more, but you only got one. Fight over it. I'm always... Alrighty, so even at the end of the night, the food that you guys don't eat that can't go to local food banks goes into composting along with our animal food and waste that is then made for fertilizer all over property. So We are a zero waste facility here at the land, which means a lot of reusing, recycling, repurposing, and trying to tear trash apart. If you didn't know, the zipper part is not recyclable, while the rest of the bag is. So that's why we separate that out. Now, if anyone's interested in making their own hydroponic grow tank, at the end of the tour, I will have some instructions that you can take home with you. That also have some websites on there with some useful information. But we're just going to cover it up because the sun comes in so bright. We don't want a bunch of algae growing in there. We are empty here. The containers behind me are currently being cleaned out, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the nutrient solution here because this is where the ingredient list is. So in here, as we get further down, you'll notice a popping sound that you hear. That's what I like to call the heartbeat of the greenhouse. The two nutrient solutions cannot get mixed together ahead of time, or else they would turn into a sludge. So as you hear that popping noise, it is the iron and then all the other stuff that gets mixed in with the water and goes out. And we'll see that better down there. But if anybody does want to know exactly what makes up the parts per million of our nutrient solution, you can scan this QR code right there, and they'll let you know exactly what's in there. These first two racks here are grown at the request of our events and catering team. Excuse me just one moment. No, I'm sorry, I was going to answer a radio call, but I'm not now. So on the counter over there, the hydroponic grow tank is grown pretty much the exact same way as we see here, with the little lettuce into the rock wool square, going through the expanded polystyrene. It's constantly sitting in that nutrient solution in the bottom with a little air stone to recirculate everything through. This morning they just harvested all of the microgreens, so not a lot to see right now, but the paper that they're sitting on is providing some extra food as well. So these guys here are some mustard seeds. So you can see there is some on the bottom that's soaking up through the holes in the bottom of the tray. And they get harvested about every 2 to 3 weeks to go make some really fancy salads for our catering department. And of course, you can't have a fancy salad without tomatoes, right? The variety of tomatoes that we grow here is a variety of Felicity tomato, which is a hybrid cherry tomato. So we talked a little bit in the pest management lab about trimming off those bottom leaves for better visibility. This growing system is called a lean and lower system. So once they grew all the way to the top, the plants are all started with the white string kind of candy caning around them from a very young age. Once they reach the top, about once a week, about a foot of line is going to get let off that spool, and it's going to move about a foot down the line. That's what's going to keep these plants growing in that circular pattern that we see. It also keeps them all ripening at about the same level. So when it's time to harvest, you can just go along in a rolly chair, pull them all off, good to go. So for these bigger plants that we see here, the mix of dirt that you see is a 75% peat, 25% perlite mixture. So these guys are a little bit younger. They're about 3 months younger. So just starting to produce a little bit of fruit on them versus those. Some salad spinners, just because it's fun to watch your food move around. And that what we are real famous for here at the land are our tomato trees. So this is the same variety of tomato that we see in that first lean and lower system. It's just the two plants. So again, train that same way to candy cane up the string, but then go across the whole trellis. Do you guys know the difference between an indeterminate and determinate tomato variety? So an indeterminate can grow in the right conditions an indeterminate amount of time. A determinate is going to stay the bushy, only grow to the first frost, or within a certain amount of producing food. So you need an indeterminate tomato like this. Our longest tomato tree lived to be 18 months old and produced over 10,000 fruit. So very Now what we do produce the most of for our restaurants on property is our lettuce. This growing technique is called a nutrient film technique. So the nutrient solution is just constantly running down these hard PVC trays. It gets recollected at the bottom and then comes back up and retreats again. We do have 4 or 5 greenhouses in the back that we won't be seeing today. One of them is nothing but wasps, one nothing but flies, and the other is all the baby plants. The number one priority in here is really to show and how things look from the boat. So a little baby plant you're not going to be able to see as well. So they get planted and seeded in the back and then come out here. So every week we're able to harvest a different quadrant, and that provides over 500 heads of lettuce to our restaurants on property. That, along with the salad spinners and then normally integrated aquaculture as lettuce, gives lots of lettuce out there. So if you're lucky enough to be anywhere in a restaurant on property and see the land salad on the menu, you know that the lettuce, the tomatoes, and the cucumbers all came from right here. For everything else that's harvested, it all just depends on what's available and when it's available. As it's collected, an email will go out to chefs on property. Chiffins at Animal Kingdom loves us over here, and will come and collect whatever's being harvested and take it and make it special for the day around it. Our lettuce, though, is rather spoiled. Lettuce typically likes to grow in a colder climate than what we have here in Florida, so it has its own chiller. By cooling the water to the upper 60s, that's enough to trick it to thinking it's in a colder place. If you do have your own garden here in the backyard in Florida or Georgia, you can use a little bit of ice water to do the same. You just don't want to do too much that you shock it. Do we all enjoy those cucumbers? Dang, cucumbers, super yummy. We always have two crops growing at the same time. So the ones that we ate today came from the far crop on the other side of the greenhouse. These are our baby cucumbers. And cucumbers are super fun because you can train not only the plants, but the actual fruits themselves. So this is one of our Mickey molds. As long as the English cucumber is growing nice and straight, the mold will get affixed to the outside of it. And as it continues to grow, it's going to fill in Mickey's head and then fill in Mickey's ears. So when you slice it, you get beautiful Mickey cucumbers like you see there. We also have some larger sideways molds that we'll use for watermelons in the summer and pumpkins in the fall. They are very heavy though, so on the boat ride right now you might be able to see we have some new Mickey molds that are being 3D printed that they're trying out to see how they expand within those different textures. We do have a lot of eggplants right now across the way, or just some regular. The variegated ones here are Angela eggplant. The nutrient solution is not a whole lot more full down here, but at least now we can hear what I was talking about with the two of them mixing together and go out into the water lines. As you can see in the cucumbers with those white lines, or here with the tan ones, some very thin water lines that they have to get through some of the plants for the nutrient solution. Our next greenhouse is going to look very different. You guys are more than welcome to have a seat on the bench if you'd like. We're going to talk about a couple different things while we're right here. There's also another water cooler behind that left door. Please do feel free to hydrate. I hate to tell you, just a warning, it is only going to get warmer from here. Now, the sand that we see in here is the same type of sand that you would have in a child's sandbox. The silica can be easily sterilized. It's about 3 feet deep. If we were to dig it all out, it would look just like a child's pool. About 3 to 4 inches below the surface is a drip irrigation line. And that was what is watering everything. For some of our larger plants, we do have the above ground sprinklers, like you see there. You can see how well the silica does retain moisture as all the algae is growing there as well. So this first plant that we see here is a casa banana. It has nothing to do with the banana. It is a true melon. The reason I originally asked if anybody had any melon allergies is we have a lot of plants along the walking path that are in the Cucumbidae family. So that includes your pumpkins, your melons, your gourds, and of course your cucumbers, which you guys already ate and are fine. So for the casa banana, typically it grows in South and Central America. If you look at the scientific name, you can see it has odor in it, which would imply a strong smell. Here in North America, we call it a musk cucumber, but it is a sweet and fragrant smell, so it's used as an air freshener in South and Central America. They'll cut it in half, leave it on the counter. That helps it to ripen up some more. So as it starts to turn, it will actually turn into a very vibrant purple, almost like the eggplant that we see when it's ripe and ready to go. But the reason we have so many Cucumbidae family plants is that they grow very easily. So you can see all the little yellow flowers there. When it's time to pollinate, just male flowers will come out that don't have the fruit behind them. Simple twist together, all it takes, and they're done. So you can see this whole trellis is actually coming just from 2 plants that are here. So it is all hand done by our plant scientists. Most things in the greenhouses are pretty easy. They just need paintbrushes and toothbrushes to be able to be pollinated. With the boat ride going through the middle of the greenhouses, you can imagine live pollinators like bees and wasps might not be the best idea. The 3 trellises that are going out towards the ride flume are passion fruit. Passion fruit is probably our most difficult one to pollinate. When the purple and white flowers open, which again you might be able to see some from the boat, hard to see from this distance today, they're only open for about 24 to 36 hours. And naturally they're pollinated by bats. So the bats get in there. Our plant scientists have to get in there with long skewers to do the passion fruit. In here you'll see a lot of things in groupings of 3 or rows of 3. The first 3 trees that we see there are fig trees. Figs have evolved very strangely over time, all on their own. They are one of the longest cultivated trees by humans, both for the leaves for covering and for the fruit. Our fig, despite her namesake, very low maintenance. There are some fig trees that actually have to have the wasps living inside the fruit to then be able to propagate and cross-pollinate. All right. Any pollination questions? Don't forget the water. We ready? Let's see what else we can find. There's a lot of grains that are growing in here. That's some little amaranth behind the figs. And then our next grouping of 3 trees are coffee trees. If you look through, you can see some are starting to flower just a little bit. And down on the end, we can see some coffee cherries. Within each coffee cherry are 2 coffee beans. So this is a blend of coffee trees. If you guys are familiar with shade-grown coffee, you know, it used to be thought that coffee had to be grown in the brightest, sunniest spot at the highest peak, and all sorts of animal habitats were ruined. So by splicing together different varieties of coffee, it can grow in different environments. Coffee is very labor-intensive, though. For 1 8-ounce cup of coffee, you need 80 coffee beans, or 40 of these coffee cherries. So they would ripen, dry out, be split open, take out the 2 coffee beans, and you split those, dry those, ground those, put some water over, and then you get coffee. A little more involved than that, but there you go. Another fun cucumber day is the winter melon. Winter melon grows in Asia in the winter. It's also stark white like snow, and when you cut it open, it looks like a snowflake in the middle, which is how it gets its name. You can see because of the weight of it, it has to get reinforced with that nylon rope, even though this metal trellis is much more sturdy than any of the PVC trellises that we saw previously. Now, lacking any color also means lacking any flavor. So it's not consumed a lot by humans, especially raw. It's got to be cut up and then chunked up and cooked in a soup or stew or something to take on the flavor of whatever it's cooking in as it's in there. It does grow very fast, though. If anyone saw the 2nd season of The Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, where Big Bull Elephant Mac was smooshing up something that looked like a giant watermelon, it was one of these winter melons, which can get up to 60 to 80 pounds. If you look in the sand, you can see something's not staying out of the sand. Those little footprints are from the brown anoles or Cuban anoles, the same lizards that you see out in the park. They don't eat any of the plants, and they do eat bugs, so they're allowed to stay in here. Feel free to stop and smell the roses if you want. Just again, please don't touch the plants. There are a lot of thorns on some of them. The purple tea peas here are called hyacinth peas. They grow in South and Central America, and the pea is cooked into a product similar to a tofu. And then these 3 rows here are a fancy variety of cotton. I've got some cotton bolls here you can feel if you want. Try and see those cotton seeds that are in there. So the pretty pink and white flowers on top can be brewed into a tea. We really use it around here just for decoration. We don't produce enough of it to be productive for anything, so they'll save the cotton throughout the year to make some wreaths when it comes to Christmas time. The flower is the yellow and pink ones, more towards the top, and then the cotton bolls are on the bottom. They're a thicker green that you see there. So the flowers can be brewed into a tea, and then the cotton seed, of course, can make cottonseed oil if you can get it out. Luckily, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, so it's no longer hand harvested out in the wild. On the other side of the cotton is some baby sorghum. So lots of different grains that we could use that would be go a little further nutritionally than what wheat does. The sorghum is going to have twice the calcium and lots more calories. So definitely smarter choices that we could make. On the corner here, this is called Buddha's hand. Buddha's hand is a citrus. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of meat or flesh to it. As it ripens, those fingers are going to extend out. So it's used more for zesting, but it's another one that doesn't occur naturally, and it was a citrus that was grafted together. Here on the edge, this rice is an experimental variety mixed with quinoa. Rice normally is grown in a very wet environment in a rice paddy, but trying to see how we can cultivate some other things that would grow better in drier, more arid climates to help feed the masses. This is how that nutrient solution gets mixed together to go out and water the rest of the plants. Again, everything's getting that same ratio that was in that QR code. Just a matter of if it's getting watered once, twice, 3, 4 times a day. If any of those black yellow tabs were up, that would mean they were watering. But right now, everything's all dry. As we make our way into the Octosel,
how you doing, folks?
Celebrating fish
Everyone have a good day.
farming.
All right.
Nowadays, almost half of the seafood consumed around the world does come from commercial fish farms. Don't hit your head, just watch that turn there. One of the animals that benefits most from that is the freshwater shrimp. So check out some of my big friends up here on the end. These are some actual exoskeletons that have come from some of the shrimp that we've raised that live to be almost 3 years old. We don't harvest them here. They're a success story because shrimp numbers are definitely making a comeback out in the wild as they're no longer being caught in drag nets or drift nets. So when left to their own devices, they can get rather large. Pound for pound, the most commonly consumed farm fish around the world is a close tie between catfish and carp. What we have in here are varieties of bass and tilapia. So bass are a schooling fish. You can see across the way, even though they have all that room in that long pool, they're going to stay together in that tight little ball to find safety in numbers. Now you will notice that it does say hybrid. They take a variety that grows very fast and a variety that grows very large and breed the two together, and that's how they come up with the hybrid fish that we see here. Now our tilapia over here are fairly small still. They're only a couple months old. In a commercial environment where they're grown to grow very fast, they can go from baby to plate in about 8 months. Tilapia have what we call a 1-to-1 ratio. For every pound of food and water that they're given, they can provide us back with a pound of flesh. So for a cow, it's about a 1-to-8 ratio. It takes 8 pounds of food and water to give us 1 pound of beef. I do have some very hungry bass here though. If anybody would like to help me feed the bass, you're more than welcome. We're not going to worry about that yellow line. You'll just step right up to the edge of the pool and make your hands into a bowl. I'll come around and pour some food into your hands, and we'll all feed at the same time. There is both gluten and shellfish in the food if anybody has any contact allergies. Feel free to come on up if you're interested. Again, we're just going to hold on to that food. If anybody has the ability to step over that pipe, you're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you.
Of course. So again, our populations in here are much smaller than populations would ever be in a commercial fish farm. And you always want to look at where fish farms still are because there's still different rules and regulations in different countries. All right, we'll catch them all. The boat's still here. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3, feed the fish. A little bit of a feeding frenzy over there. As they're growing, they're getting not quite as excited for the fish, but more or less bottomless pits. Now, nobody wants to smell like trout chow the rest of the day. There is some sanitizer right there next to the food. Feel free to get a squirt of that. Good. We're not coming back to the surface. We're going to be lazy and wait for it to stink. Alrighty, I am going to just squeeze by you guys. So, we do actually harvest our tilapia here and serve it in the restaurants. So when they're adult sized, they're each about 3 to 4 servings as they go out to be food for you guys. As we make our way around the corner, there is a window that you can see the smaller tilapia a little bit better as we make our way into tropics. I think tropics is my favorite because it has the biggest variety. There's over 80 different species of plants in this greenhouse dome alone. The first thing that we're greeted with are 3 of our 4 varieties of banana. Naturally out in the wild, there are over 1,000 different banana varieties. Banana is very misunderstood though. It is not a tree. There is no woody material or bark. Banana is technically an herbaceous plant. So the stalk will grow up. It'll get this beautiful purple flower. That purple flower is what literally transforms into a bunch of bananas. Naturally, it's going to take about 2 to 2.5 years to be harvested. Once harvested, that plant is done. It'll never produce again. So you chop it down at the base, or the pups come up, and the whole thing happens again all over. The bananas that we currently eat are chemically ripened in warehouses, so that whole process happens much faster, only taking about 1.5 years or so. These 2 plants here are vanilla orchids. You can see what look like green beans here on the edge, and those are the immature vanilla beans. See. Behind the vanilla is fluted pumpkin. Oh. And we actually still have one of those banana flowers that you can see. So you can see how as each petal comes up, that's what forms the row or fingers of banana. A variety of different fruiting trees from around the world as we make our way into the spice garden. Now here in the Spice Garden, we do have one of my favorite photo opportunities on the tour and our oldest plant, Mickey Pepper. So Mickey is 21 years old. Feel free to take any selfies with Mickey, or I'm happy to take any family pictures for you. Right now, what you primarily see are green peppercorns on Mickey. This is all black pepper. It all just depends on the color it is when it's harvested and then flash frozen as to what it will stay. White pepper is a different plant completely. But right now we are in the Spice Garden surrounded by all sorts of spices. If there's ever one that you've wondered about, please do let me know. Spices are super cool. They can come from the roots, the rhizomes, the flowers, the seeds, the pods. You never know. Anybody know what the most expensive spice out there is? Saffron. So these beautiful blue flowers, you get just those 3 stamen that are hand harvested. For a pound of saffron, you would need a field of flowers the size of a football field. The second most expensive is vanilla. We saw what looked like the green beans. It takes 6 to 7 years for vanilla to ripen to the point where it looks like this. 6 to 7. 67. Yep, not 66 or 68. Behind the vanilla, we saw the fluted pumpkin. This is what it looks like when it's cut on the inside. If anybody would like to pose with Mickey Pepper with your fluted pumpkin, or for those of you who it's your favorite ride, preview work behind the seeds, there you go. Feel free by all means. You're more than welcome to smell any of these. I realize at this point right now it is mega hot here. This greenhouse is called Tropics for a reason. So we can spend as much or as little time as you want in here. As I said, an hour would go by faster than you ever imagined, and we have 10 minutes to get back out to show space. So, again, the sand across the way is deeper. It's about 8 feet deep. That largest tree that you see in there is a breadfruit tree. The little one to the left of it is a jackfruit tree. You can see some of the fruits on it right now. They're going to grow to about 40 pounds. If you've never tried jackfruit, kind of like the winter melon, it's normally cooked into a sauce or a spice. but you can try it over in the America Pavilion at the Regal Eagle. They have a barbecue jackfruit sandwich. These cactuses here are dragon fruit. So dragon fruit's a fun one, kind of like the banana. It's going to get this pretty white flower, and then that's what produces the fruit there. Around the back side, you can see, well, it's kind of like dying now, one of the red dragon fruit that are there. So feel free, if there's ever a spice you wanted to smell, let me know. If anyone wants any pictures, let me know. You're all just like, we're hot, let's go back to AC. Whatever you need, I am here for you. Sure, absolutely. They didn't actually weigh that one. Sometimes they do, but it weighs about what my dogs weigh, and they're both 18 pounds, so that's where I'm getting the guess from. The most edible plant in all of the greenhouses is in the water gardens over there with the water lilies. So you can see the beautiful flowers. They're the purple, yellow, pink ones. We can eat the flowers, the stems, the lily pads, the roots. Every part of a water lily is edible. So sure. Absolutely. One of the strongest smelling spices out there, star anise, star anise. If anyone's a fan of black licorice or sambuca, you got it? Do one this way. Perfect. You're welcome. It is heavy, isn't it? After we just fed the fish a little bit of wasabi. Wasabi is in the horseradish family naturally, but then it has more added to it as it's processed. That one was the wasabi.
How'd you know that's the one I wanted? Oh, wow. That's
like,
great.
it's got to be a strong one to have you walk over.
Yeah, very strong.
You're like, yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. You got it? So the banana plant is a close second behind the water lily. The roots are a little bit rough. Elephants do consume them, but every other part of the plant can be eaten as well. No problem. Did anybody go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge on this trip? To Olga's Cantina? Have a fuzzy tauntaun? The fuzzy tauntaun is made with buzz buttons or buzz beads. They give you a reaction where your lips go tingly and numb. So after it quickly became one of the most popular drinks on property, even we are not immune to supply chain issues, and they had trouble getting the concentrate they needed to make it. So we did start growing it here. We have walked past it today. But if you've ever seen videos of the cucumber lady who jumped off the boat for food, you know why I'm not telling you where it is. Alrighty, all the pictures we have? Alright, we will go ahead and head on back. I'll try to talk about some other things that we didn't talk about on the way out here. Now, where the boat is crossing right now are some cacao or cocoa trees. Underneath that is a miracle fruit. Miracle fruit is another fun one. When you eat the miracle fruit berries, it's going to give you a sweet sensation in your mouth for about a half an hour afterwards. So in capsule form, it's becoming very common in medicine as an appetite stimulant. So if you're on any medications that give you a metallic taste in your mouth or that lessen your taste buds, it can be a great solution. Now we get a good view of our little tilapia friends. Now the ceiling here in the aqua cell is red or unfreezed. It helps to inhibit algae growth. Again, our fish populations are much smaller than you would ever have in a commercial fish farm. But anything that we can do for the health and safety and welfare of our animals. The tilapia that we see down here in the longer pool are about ready for harvesting. That's as big as they'll get. And then speaking of safety for animals, the shrimp are separated for a reason. The shrimp that you see on the top are much larger, and shrimp are cannibals. So left to their own devices, if they were in there with the little guys on the bottom, they would start to eat them. were here for the Flower and Garden Festival and saw the topiaries, it used to be that topiaries were one plant that just grew into a certain shape. Now they're taking different things and mixing them together to get all the beautiful colors that you see. Now, unfortunately, you'll notice you're not getting a whole lot of relief from those fans that are on your right or / behind you. Rather than blowing stuff in, they are actually pulling things out of the greenhouse and taking contaminants with it. They work along with the outer walls, which are called swamp coolers. So when it's below about 85 degrees, the swamp coolers work great. There's cold water that runs down this hard treated cardboard, lowering the ambient temperature. And then those fans pull it across. That works in conjunction with the ceiling, which is a double layered ceiling. There's a small amount of air in between the two layers that are controlled by these black motors and fans that you see. So that can also help with light dissipation and light dispersal, so there's no direct sunbeams that are coming down that are going to burn any of the plants in here. So throughout the year, we do like to change up the decorations that we see in here. Since the Flower and Garden Festival just finished up, we used to have a lot more pop of color in here than's come out in the last couple of days, along with a lot of edible flowers. One of my favorite times of year in the greenhouses is when all of the lights are up for the glimmering greenhouses for the holidays. You guys can go ahead and keep on walking. So if you're lucky enough or crazy enough to be in here, depending upon how you look at it, for the holidays, you can also see that whole video on YouTube of boats coming through the greenhouses with the thousands of lights that are there. All of those lights are put up by our plant scientists because of the USDA and the white line rules. Walt Disney Decorating and Imagineering could not come in and put them up. So the plant scientists put all of them up and take all of them back down. It is beautiful, I will admit. Gotta come on the last tour on that day. Some tomatoes. Oh, planting some new sunflower seeds for our microgreen. Hi, Lauren. And then as we make our way back into creative, you will feel a little bit of relief. 40 years ago, when these greenhouses were built, it was thought that by having an enclosed air system, that would help to limit the pest population. They quickly learned that was not true, and it was not very efficient or effective. You can put that, if anyone still has the paper cups, you can put them in the blue bin there for the cups, or you can refill them. There's another water cooler right there on your left if you didn't notice it. But that's what the funny tube is over our head, keeping us a little bit cooler. Alrighty, my friends, as we walk back, if anybody would like to feel Stanley again, you're more than welcome to. We're just not going to put him completely to sleep again because there will be another tour coming in here in just a couple minutes. You guys can make your way opposite the yellow arrows back up to that stairwell.
Thank you.
So this is the only greenhouse in property where we grow food for human consumption. It's actually less than about 0.5% of food. We do have browse fields back behind the animal kingdom where we grow plants that help to supplement the animals' diets that they get. Right here at Walt Disney World, we've got 47 square miles to try and keep beautiful. So it takes a lot of different people coming together to help make that happen. Anywhere that you're driving, you're fine. Your personal car on property or driving in a Disney bus, that's all a third-party company that does all of that mowing and maintenance. So sorry, you guys can keep walking, stay in the shade. We have horticulture teams in all of our parks and resorts. And then here at the land, we are a division of agricultural sciences. If any of you guys saw all those topiaries that were up, it's actually part of entertainment that does all the plotting for all of the beautiful flowers and topiaries that are out. Jenna from Shannon, I'm entering the welcome room. Okay. So at this point, you guys can go ahead and turn off those whisper units. If you wouldn't mind setting them in that basket.